This is crime scene investigator Chris G, leading you under the police tape and into a crime scene. Join me as we discuss the ever-changing world of forensic science. Put on your PPE, ready your fingerprint brushes, and experience the drama of a crime scene. Hello everyone, how you all doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Crime Scene Investigator. I hope you've had a good couple weeks. I've mostly been, just doing what you can during lockdown, is staying indoors, watching a bit of TV. I've been hooked on The Circle at the moment. I don't know if you guys have been watching that, but I've often thought, how will my crime fighting skills deal with a situation like The Circle? So in this podcast, I'm going to be talking about exhibiting and packaging. Now you may be scratching your head wondering what exhibiting is. So I thought long and hard about how I could put this into one sentence, and here goes. So what is an exhibit? It is something which has been recovered into police custody which could be subject to testing or further analysis to be presented in a courtroom. So in a nutshell, that is what an exhibit is. And an exhibit could be anything that may help the case or the progress of said case. For example, if you've got a mobile phone that's been recovered from a drugs warrant, you could have a load of information on that phone as to who the contacts are for that person. And also you've got a mobile phone that has potentially got some forensic evidence on there as well, such as fingerprints and DNA. So all this information that could be gathered from the phone would be crucial to an investigation. So we take it away with us and we recover it. So we don't recover things indefinitely all the time. It may be that the owner of said property would like it back, and in which case, once the court case is finished or the investigation has been closed, then they can have their items back. That's no problem. They may not want them back if, say, we've had to do some, chemical work on it to recover some fingerprints, in which case, if we know that what we're going to do is going to destroy an exhibit, then we'd always check with the owner first if they are sort of being treated as a victim. So let's talk packaging. Why do we package an item and why is it important? So we package an item to protect the handler from injury. So if we were to recover a knife and put it into a plastic bag, chances are that we're going to pierce the bag with the knife and run the risk of really injuring ourselves. So in which case we would use suitable packaging to protect the user of the exhibit from any injury. We'd also protect the exhibit from damage and contamination. So we don't want the bag to split in, say, the example of the knife case, because then we could end up contaminating the knife with anything present that's outside the packaging. We also want to prevent contamination between exhibits. So if we have got, say if we've got some blood-stained clothing and we've got a knife, but the knife hasn't been used to cause injury to the person with the blood-stained clothing, if they're not packaged correctly, then we run the risk of a small trace of blood being transferred from the item of clothing onto the knife, and that could cause all kinds of problems later down the line. So that's why we've got to make sure that nothing can get in and out of the packaging of our exhibits. And we want to ensure continuity and integrity. These are two key words that we always talk about with packaging and exhibits. Now you might be thinking, what do we mean by continuity and integrity? Well, lucky for you, you've got a man that's doing a podcast that's just about to tell you. So continuity, that word basically means that we want to know where an exhibit has been at all times in its sort of life with us in the police. So we want to be able to prove where it was and when it was there at all times, when it's been recovered up until the point that it then gets taken to court. So say for example, if I recover something, it's going to be in my possession, and then I'm going to put it into our property store, who then accept the receipt of that exhibit, and then they should be able to evidence that item has been with them in the property store for a set amount of time. It may be that I think, I need to do some testing on that item. So I'm going to need to go into the property store and take it out, and in which case the property store would have a record of when I come in to their store to collect the item and take it away. And then when I return it again, once I've done all that I need to do, then they'll check in the exhibit again. So we've got a timeline of when I've recovered it, when it's been in the property store, when it's been taken out and then been put back in, all the way up to the time that it goes to court. And this will be recorded on the evidence bag as well. So if the bag is then opened, we're going to document on the exhibit bag when it was opened and by who, and then we're going to seal it up again. So yeah, that's kind of what we mean by continuity. It's having that timeline of where the exhibit has been at all times. Now, what do we mean by integrity? Now, integrity basically means that if an item is of high integrity, then there's less arguments against it. I don't know if you've seen that Making a Murderer, where there was that blood vial of, I think it was Stephen Avery, and the blood vial had been packaged into like this polystyrene kind of block thing. I don't know what you would call it. The tape that was sealing that polystyrene block had been cut and then never sealed back again. Now, because it had never been sealed again, you then lost all the integrity of that item, because anyone could open up the exhibit without actually having to break through a seal and record that they'd done so. So we didn't know how many times that exhibit had been opened, who had been in there, or anything. So then it had lost integrity. So to ensure that an item it has its integrity intact, we're always going to seal up the bag once we've cut through, and we're going to seal away from the original seal. So when I recover something, I might say seal it into a bag and seal across the top of that evidence bag. Now, what someone shouldn't do is cut through my own seal, because then if they do that, I wouldn't be able to tell how many times someone has cut through my own seal. So what they're going to do is they're going to pick a new place in the bag and they're going to cut through that and then take out the item, do what they need to do with it, return it to the original packaging, and then seal up across their new cut in the bag with a bit of tape. Now, once they put that tape down as well, they may choose to, say, put a label across the seal, so then if anyone cuts into it, they're going to break that label and cut through it. Or you're going to sign across, say, the edges of the tape, so your signature goes across both the tape and the packaging. Now, this means that if the tape is then peeled off, it's incredibly hard for someone to put back the tape in exact alignment with your signature. So this is a way to just ensure that once you've cut open a bag and then placed it back in again, no one else can, say, go through and cut into your exhibit without you knowing. And that's the whole idea, that when you get to court, you have a look at your exhibits and you look at the packaging, and you're confident, or you should hopefully be confident with the packaging, knowing that no one has been in and out of this exhibit bag without you knowing about it. So that's what we mean by integrity. Now, what types of packaging material are available to us? We have a whole host of packaging items that can be used to recover all sorts. Sometimes there might not be, say, a box big enough for something that we need to recover. So then we'll have to do almost like a little art attack type thing, and piece together different bits of packaging to form kind of this, I don't know, this really large box or really oddly shaped exhibit bag. Sometimes the shape of it isn't important, just as long as it is sealed and nothing can get in and out. You've got to make sure that when you're, say, taping together two boxes, that all the holes and gaps are completely sealed, so nothing can get in and out. You wouldn't even be able to thread through a tiny little fibre. It's got to be completely, say, airtight that way. So the items that we have, most commonly we have tamper-proof evidence bags. You may have seen these on TV. They've basically got they're a bag with a little sticky strip at the top. You peel off it's a bit of paper or plastic to reveal the sticky seal, and then you seal it together once your item's inside. Now if you were to try and pull the seal apart, it then comes up and has like a little message where the stickiness leaves something behind that just says void, so you know if someone has tried to pull the evidence bag apart, it's quite obvious and quite visible. Other items we have exhibit boxes. Now boxes are good if you've got, say, something like a hammer that could pierce an exhibit bag quite easily. You also don't want, say, the hammer to become damaged if it was to be dropped. And also, again, we'll put mobile phones into boxes. So then again, if a mobile phone is just in an evidence plastic bag, it really does run the risk of getting damaged, which we don't want to do. It's never nice to hand something back to someone all damaged, and then the police have got to pay out a bill when that could have been easily avoided. So we can use boxes, just always making sure that what we put into the box is secure inside the box. Now we've got things like cable ties that we can utilise to make sure that the items are well secure in the box. We've also got knife tubes. Now knife tubes, they're, say, plastic tubes that you screw together, and you can pull them apart, so you've got two ends that then meet in the middle, they screw together, and you can put things like sharp knives in there. You can also put, say, screwdrivers in there. I sometimes put like little cigarette lighters in there as well to stop them like accidentally igniting in the exhibit bag. And we'll often say that anything that's, say, breakable or could damage the evidence bags, we want to put into a rigid container, and by that we mean, say, the knife tubes or boxes. We've also got, say, little pots and buckets. They're called little polypots, which are almost like the same you get in like your little urine tests kits that you get from the doctors. These urine pots are perfect for cigarette ends, so I tend to put them in there quite a lot. Now you might think, well, why don't I just shove the cigarette end into an evidence bag? Well, sometimes a cigarette end could be trodden on and walked into the scene, and if it's trodden on, likelihood is that it's going to be flat or it's going to be damaged. If the cigarette end is quite rounded, then that may help suggest that it hasn't been trodden into the scene and walked in, and maybe someone has left it in your crime scene. So down the line, hopefully you can see where I'm getting at here. There may be an argument that in a courtroom, the person who's left that cigarette end may say, well, I lit up a cigarette end nearby. I was walking my dog nearby and someone must have walked it into the crime scene. Well, if I've helped protect this exhibit and made sure it hasn't got squashed in, say, the property store, then this may help, say, negate that argument. It's not going to prove or disprove his theory, I guess, but if he is lying, maybe this will make them wobble. I say he, there are female criminals out there as well. Okay, so I'll cover some exhibits that need, say, special packaging measures, and the most common example I can think of are arson exhibits. So when we go to an arson, there has possibly been accelerant used to start a fire. This could be petrol, diesel, white spirit. I'm not going to give you too many hints, but these say this kind of ignitable liquid will quickly evaporate. So we need to put it into some packaging material that we know is going to house this gas, and it's not going to easily evaporate. So we've got nylon bags that we'll use. We'll use nylon bags to, say, package like a sample of debris from the scene, and this could be in, say, the seat of fire where we think that the accelerant has been poured, or it could be that the person's clothing, so our suspect in custody, we might think that maybe they've got accelerant on their clothes, so we're going to recover those into nylon bags as well. And what we do is we do something that we call swan neck the bag. So we'll kind of roll up the end of a bag, almost like you're trying to do like Christmas cracker wrapping, but only at one end, and we'll tie, sort of like scrunch up an end, tie it, and then loop it across over itself, so it looks a bit like a swan neck. So it's going up and then coming down on itself once we've twisted it. and then we're going to put a cable tie across that loop to help seal it in place. It's so hard to explain how we do it over audio only. If you want some examples of, say, arson packaging, then yeah, hit us up on Twitter at CSIChrisG, and I'll try and dig out like an exhibit bag that I can show you. We've also got wet items like wet clothing if it's been out in the rain or if it's covered in blood. We're going to need to, say, package those to ensure that they're not going to get all mouldy, but they're also not going to soak through, say, the exhibit packaging. Now, clothing we would normally put into brown paper sacks. That is just because they're a little bit more breathable, and hopefully they're not going to cause the exhibit to get, say, like lots of condensation and then start going mouldy. So yeah, we'll need to put all clothing into brown paper sacks, but then, of course, as it's wet, it's going to get mouldy if we don't dry it. So what we'll do is we'll put that item of wet clothing into like a big plastic bag. We won't seal that plastic bag, we'll keep it open, so then the clothes can still sort of breathe, but then we will seal that bag into a paper sack, so then we know that nothing can get in or out, but as long as we keep it upright, the exhibit packaging isn't going to get soaking wet and damaged. But of course, we've still got an item of wet clothing in that exhibit bag, so we'll either need to get that into a drying room to get that dried completely, or if, say, it's not a major case, we might just, say, freeze the item of clothing, so then if it is then later needed, a scientist can defrost it and then examine it. Now, we don't always dry the clothing because it is a bit of a, I can't think of a polite way to put it, it's very time consuming because our drying cabinet and the cleaning area, the clean area that we'll call it, has got to be, say, cleaned before and after. It is quite an ordeal, and it takes quite a long time for the clothing to dry as well. It may be like a couple of days, and as we've only got 2 drying cabinets in Sussex, it can get quite a backlog sometimes, so then it might be better off us popping it in a freezer. Now we've got footwear lifts that we'll take from a crime scene, where it may be that we've powdered a footwear mark on the floor and we're able to recover that footwear mark with like a gelatine lift. That lift will then need to be packaged into a box to ensure that it doesn't, say, get damaged or trodden on, so a different footwear imprint is left on our crime scene mark. So we'll need to put that into a box, but also secure it into the box to make sure that it's not going to get damaged whilst it's in there. So now I'll talk about exhibiting. Now, basically what we mean by exhibiting is that an exhibit must have details on it, so we know what the exhibit is, where it was recovered from, who recovered it, and when. So every single exhibit that I've recovered in my lifetime is going to be unique, because all the exhibits are going to have a different exhibit number, a different time and date, a different description. There may be some that have a similar description, because it might be that I take a swab from a Coke can and then take another swab from a different Coke can, but the timings are going to be different. Maybe they are in a different location in our scene, and they're going to have different exhibit numbers as well. So I should always be able to tell the difference between one exhibit and the next. So exhibiting is so important, because a courtroom will often want to know what item of evidence it was that, say, identified a suspect. If I cannot tell them what item had done, so say for example, if I've got a car, I've got 2 drinks cans in either door pocket, and I've only got a DNA profile from one of the drinks cans, it might be quite crucial if we knew who was likely to have sat in driver's seat or passenger seat. If I've got no way of telling, then there's really no point in me swabbing those drinks cans. So yeah, it's so important that we have clear and concise labelling, and we have a good list of all the exhibits we've recovered, and we know exactly where they've come from in our crime scene. Once we've recovered all these items, we're going to transport them back to our, say, nearest police station or nearest property store, and we're going to put them into the property store so they can be securely stored there. We're going to store things using, say, different methods sometimes. Normally we'll either store them as dry or frozen, or if they're particularly hazardous, then they might need to go outside or into a specific, say, container. So you're maybe not going to have like accelerant indoors. That's going to be kept outside in, say, a secure container. And items that have been wet, they can sometimes degrade DNA quite quickly. So say, for example, if I take some wet and dry swabs from an area of blood, I'm going to put those into a freezer because that DNA on those wet swabs could end up, say, degrading over time. But just by freezing those, that's going to sort of slow down the degradation process. And anything sort of, your normal stuff like paper exhibits, clothing, normally they're just going to be stored as just like on a shelf somewhere without any sort of special storage measures. But then, like I said, of course, once they're in the property store, they are then protected from, say, anyone else just easily going and getting them. They have to have a reason why they get it out of the property store, and they have to request it and, say, do a digital kind of request to have that out. And that is sort of the lifespan of an exhibit. Of course, I've seized goodness knows what throughout my time. I've seized like feces, which has never been nice. I've had to recover a sofa, and I say recover a sofa, this sofa was so big that we had to take out the window of someone's house to take it out of it from. But of course that sofa needed to be packaged so no forensic evidence would be, say, lost on the sofa, or it couldn't get contaminated. So I had to get, say, multiple body sheets, which is sometimes what we all wrap, say, deceased bodies in. I had to get lots of these body sheets and sort of seal them all together, wrapping around this huge sofa. And then every single, say, edge of this sheet I had to tape down so there was no gaps in it whatsoever. And if any gaps did then form in the packaging because, say, like one of the feet poked through or something, then that little gap would have to be sealed up, documented, and whatnot. So sometimes you do have to be quite innovative. I can't say that word. Innovative. That's it. Innovative. You have to be quite innovative with your packaging. I could have just picked a different word. But you have to be quite creative. Why didn't I say the word creative? You have to be quite creative with your packaging. Because you'll come across, say, an exhibit that you think, oh goodness, I haven't packaged anything like this in my career. I've got to think on my feet as to how we're going to best recover it. One of my kind of not fun experiences in packaging was I had like some film crew with me in Brighton, and they were filming me just at a scene, and I was there to recover some bedding, but the bed didn't have a bed sheet on, it was just a bare mattress. So because of the offence, I would have had to have recovered the bed sheet. Because there wasn't one, I then had to recover this mattress. And we've got, say, mattress sacks. They're like big paper sacks that will fit a mattress in. But it's normally easier if you do this with two people. But I was just by myself. I was putting on this mattress sack, and I could just, as I was pulling it on, I could just hear it rip. And out the corner of my eye, I can just see the film crew filming me as I was doing this. And it just ripped all down the sides. So then, because it ripped, I then have to get out my tape and then seal that all up and make sure that it's not going to, say, then reopen through this rip. In case you're wondering, no, that didn't make it to air. That clip, I don't think they used that in their footage of, say, the Brighton crime scene that I was at. Thank goodness, maybe it made the blooper reel at the end, but yeah. So that in a nutshell is sort of exhibiting and packaging. I hope it's kind of given you an insight into, say, the life of a crime scene exhibit when it gets up to the court process. And it's just not as simple as you think. We just take something away from a scene and it's as easy as that. We have to put all these measures in place to make sure that there is, say, less to argue at court. And of course, we want to be open and honest, and we want to answer any questions that a courtroom may have. So if they do have a question as to where was an exhibit at this point in time, or how many people have examined an exhibit, then the courtroom has the right to know that, and it's very important that we're able to tell them. And maybe this podcast has given you some ideas for your next Christmas and birthday presents. There might be some fun wrapping up going on. Maybe you'll get creative with, say, some boxes or maybe knife tubes. Who knows? But anyway, thank you for listening to me waffle on about packaging, and I hope to catch you again soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye. This is crime scene investigator Chris G signing off. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Be sure to subscribe and follow my social media at CSI Chris G. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the next crime scene.